The world today is disorienting. Society is changing so fast that even what life was like a decade ago can seem like the Stone Age. And unfortunately, there's a dangerous psychological phenomenon that's preventing us from seeing the whole picture and truly understanding our reality in a world that's only getting faster. Generational memory loss describes how as things change in the world over long periods of time, each generation normalizes the world as they know it during their lifetime. But with each new generation, normal gets redefined. As such, we fail to see how drastically things in our world are changing generation over generation. Humans have come a long way from our humble beginnings roaming the African grasslands in search of food. We developed language, traditions, and religion. We figured out how to grow our food rather than endlessly roam searching for it. Without realizing it, we created society one generation of innovative humans at a time. But our newfound power exploded during the Industrial Revolution with the invention of the steam engine. Suddenly, we had a way to harness energy from ancient forests preserved in the Earth's crust in the form of coal. Being able to direct these immense energy reserves allowed us to impact the world around us on a scale that was previously unimaginable. For the first time, the rate of change became noticeable in one lifespan. While for most of human history, the world you died in looked pretty much like the world you were born into, your grandparents were born into, and likely even their grandparents. As such, we didn't need to look further than our own experiences to understand the story of the world. But for the last 400 years or so, and particularly since the mid-1800s, the rate of change has exploded. Don't believe me? In 1950, we estimate that there were 2.5 billion people on Earth. Today, we estimate our numbers at around 8 billion. That means that in your life today, there are 3 times as many people as there were when your grandparents were young. It's not hard to see why generational divides have become so clear and distinct. They simply grew up in and experienced a world that looked nothing like the world does today. This change is not inherently good or bad. Every day, we enjoy many of the benefits. Seen through a historical lens, being able to fly across an ocean to wake up on an entirely different continent is an outstanding feat. But nothing good comes without a price, and our growth has also caused negative impacts for the environment, for wildlife, and for ourselves. While many of the benefits of our growth are perceived immediately, many of the costs take decades and decades to accumulate. And so our ability to perceive them is fundamentally flawed. That psychological phenomenon is the basis of generational memory loss. For the first time in human evolution, to see the whole truth requires more context than what our own lived experiences can provide. I first came across this idea in a great book called For Fish by Paul Greenberg, which is an in-depth analysis on the main fish we consume as humans. The book itself was phenomenal, but the idea of generational memory loss was truly haunting. Let's say that your family has been fishing the same lake for generations. Your grandpa would likely tell stories of the good old days, when he would fish with his grandpa and catch beautiful 20-pound fish by the dozens. Then, if you ask your dad, he might remember that one amazing day when he caught 10 fish. Meanwhile, a great day of fishing for you probably involves 2 or 3 fish if you're lucky. And then, years later when you take your kid fishing, you might only catch 1 fish, or maybe none at all. Young people tend to assume all these stories are just grandpas exaggerating. But by and large, these stories are true, and they're critical to understanding how to fix our planet. Let's say you decide to take your lack of fishing success seriously, and want to begin protecting fish populations in an attempt to bring them back to their former glory. The question then becomes, what exactly was their former glory? We have records starting around when your dad was young, but was that even a healthy lake? Many efforts to restore oceanic fish stocks use a species population levels in the 1980s as their benchmark for a healthy population. And therein lies the problem. We incorrectly accept that the fish populations in the 1980s were healthy. Are they healthier than they are today? Absolutely. But by historic standards, even the fish populations in the 1980s were low. This is a phenomenon skewing our perceptions everywhere we look. All throughout the American West, you'll see signs for Beaver Creek or Beaver Road, when most people have never seen a beaver in real life. Many assume they aren't native to the region. I'm not even particularly old, and I remember the monarch butterfly migration with large swarms making their way down the Pacific coast to Mexico. Now, I only see a few every fall. It's hard to sugarcoat. Truly wrapping your mind around what was lost in the last 300 years is profoundly saddening. There are species that roamed the earth for thousands upon thousands of years that we simply snuffed out. Endless old-growth forests that we turned into lumber and farmland. Rivers that once were the lifeblood of whole ecosystems now choking to death on plastic. It's easy to feel guilt about this on a personal level, but I think that does more harm than good. Each human is simply born into what society looks like at that moment in time and does their best with the time that they're given. None of us are individually at fault, but that doesn't absolve us of our collective responsibility to begin charting a different course today. Now, having said all that, understanding the world through this larger historical lens can also be wildly empowering. We have an amazing opportunity in front of us. We could be the generation that begins writing the course of humanity. Generations before us with less technology were able to destroy on an astounding scale. It would follow then that with current technology, we have the capacity to restore on an even larger scale. What keeps me up at night is that we may simply forget what we've lost and accept the new normal. There's the common saying, if a tree falls in the forest and no one is around to hear it, does it make a sound? I think the more appropriate saying for our time is, if a tree were cut down in the forest and no one alive remembers it, did it ever exist? I'm working on a series of videos that will analyze different instances of generational memory loss while highlighting the opportunity we have to help each system heal. This series will be about the opportunities we have in front of us right now to leave the world better than we found it. So stay tuned, and if you really like my content, it would mean the world to me if you'd share it with a friend.